the Last Dinner Party, the breakout British band that are having a lovely, lovely time at the moment. Potentially, as of recording right now, they are on their way for a UK debut #1 single for the album, which is fantastic for a band that are pretty much new to the game, haven't really been around all that long. They're very much just your quintessential indie British band, and yet somehow they're seeing lots of success. We have seen some conversations and accusations of industry plant being thrown around, but for me, with stuff like this, I don't particularly care all that much, as long as the music is good. And how people get to where they get sometimes can be questionable, or can be worth a discussion. There's been plenty of artists in the history of industry plant accusations for sure, but aside from that, I'm just here for the music. I always have been, even like when it comes to gossip, rumor mill, drama stuff that a lot of artists get themselves involved in. I'm just always like, yeah, cool, but is the music good? Like, that's all I'm here for. That the music is always going to take the center stage. Like, that should be what you care about the most. And thankfully, in regards to this particular case, Last Dinner Party, all the hype is pretty much earned for me. Like, I was sort of hesitant initially, because I was like, this is the type of band that is primed for some kind of hot take from me, where I come in and say, you know what, I'm not really feeling it all that much, or it's fine, it's all right. And I know maybe some viewers of me think that's all I ever do on this channel, which I don't think is fair. I don't necessarily think I do that, but sometimes it can happen with an artist that is just propelled to such great heights quite quickly. But it's friggin' great. What can I say? It's a great debut album. Like, actually bloody great. Like, I've been listening to this so much over the past few days and just enjoying it from start to end. Not many complaints. Like, it's just genuinely a really well crafted, well produced, well performed debut album. Like, I've been talking to a few friends, and we just keep bringing up the fact that, like, this is a debut. Like, they're already at this level at a debut. Like, that's pretty incredible. Where they can go from here, who knows? But to be at this level of quality production, the performances from the band members, the vocals, like, everything is just really top notch from the first get-go. Like, it's ridiculously impressive to be at this level already. Opening track, Prelude to Ecstacy, essentially sets the tone. You know exactly what you're going to get with this first track. Essentially music theatre kids who have a very overdramatic sensibility putting music together. And I think that could potentially be the off-putting thing with this album, where everything just feels a bit over the top and everything's grandiose and everything just feels too big for its own good. But for me, that can sometimes put me off too. But actually the way it's all put together and how it feels earnest in the way it presents itself too, just hits the spot for me. Beyond that though, you've got tracks like Burn Alive, which has lyrics such as candle wax melting in my veins, which is pretentious as all hell. There are some lines on this album that may make you go, ugh, but at the same time they sell it with just how epic everything feels. Like, the music, like I say, the vibe and the aesthetic of the tracks that just kind of have these huge swelling moments with the instrumentation really just hitting those grandiose levels. You kind of can ignore maybe some claims of pretentiousness, but I don't necessarily mind it. Caesar on a TV screen, one of my favourite tracks on this whole album as well. Got to mention this one. Just love the rhythm of the guitar when it gets to the and it falling. That part sounds great. It's almost like, I guess, I don't know if it's like the pre-chorus really, because the chorus itself is that really epic moment where you've just got this center stage main character in a theatre performance essentially demanding for power, wanting to be on the TV screen, wanting to have the fame. A lot of this album does tend to remind me of other artists in a really good way, and I do want to mention some of those, because the feminine urge, with particularly some of the lyrics on the verses, remind me of some kind of Marina and the Diamonds type stuff, or maybe just the Marina era where she took away the diamonds and made her music worse. It got worse. Bring back the diamonds. But even still, this track is so reminiscent of that early era of Marina. This is a comparison I'm seeing a lot of people make. don't be shocked to hear me saying it, or don't pretend like I'm trying to offer you something that's totally brand new, because the Marina comparisons have been coming through in spades. The harmonized vocals towards the end of the song sound bloody excellent. I love the way this band utilizes all of its abilities. The main vocalist obviously is the main vocalist, but there are clearly other members that come through at times and offer really lovely vocal contributions as well, which I love to see. Beautiful Boy. I want to mention this track because this is the point of the album where I'm like, holy mother of God, we may have seen the real-time influence of a band like Black Country New Road coming to fruition now, because this track is so very reminiscent of something that came off the Live at Bush Hall album, which is only like, what, a year old, I guess, but still, I'm starting to wonder now, with how epic and how exquisitely refined and posh energy that comes through on The Last Dinner Party, is very much reminding me of Black Country New Road, and perhaps their posh antics and the way they present themselves is really bleeding through now into the rest of British music. And the fact that that's had that influence on a band that got, you know, awards and things at the Brits and may even be nominated next year is pretty mad to see. Like, they may end up being unsung heroes of British music if this ends up being something that takes off even further. Bird-like vocal calls that come at the end of this track as well, really, really stunning, really beautiful. Reminds me of something Regina Spektor would do, which is the highest of praise when you know how much I like her music. And the lyrics on this track too, Beautiful Boy. I guess I just went on a tangent talking about Black Country New Road there, but I still am talking about the song Beautiful Boy. A really poetically written, I think a lot of women can relate to this kind of thing, just essentially wanting to, you know, become that beautiful boy that has a lot more privilege in the world than a woman does, particularly a beautiful woman, because in an interview they talked about how this song is essentially wanting to be that person that can basically just travel on their own, can go on late night walks on their own, and never really feel that sense of danger in a way that a woman would do if they were doing these things on their own. It's a really cleverly put together track. I know some people might wash it away as just being some kind of like feminist nonsense or whatever, but no, this is very real. Like, you really need to speak to women in your life if you're going to dismiss this kind of thing, because trust me, it's very real, and I'm not trying to pretend that I understand how it feels, but it's real. We've got the track Sinner, which again highlights how fantastic the guitar work is on this album, and on plenty of tracks as well. The guitar sounds fantastic. I'm loving the way that they put together their rhythms. This is one of the highlights for sure. Quite like the lyrics as well, where it's essentially just kind of wanting to feel like yourself, feel like who you are, and not having to feel like you can't do it because it's viewed as a sin. There's obviously a lot of ways you could interpret this track, I think, from maybe an LGBTQ plus perspective as well, or maybe just even kind of like a general relatability, in the sense that like you just kind of want to feel those childlike feelings that you once had, where you just didn't really care about anything and nothing felt like, you know, it had consequences, and no one was really there to judge you because you're just a kid and kids just do kid things. I really like what this track is presenting lyrically, and how it could be interpreted in many different ways. Nothing Matters was the hit from this album, which I only found out recently actually was a top 40 hit in the UK. It charted at 22, which is pretty impressive. I did not realise it had done that well. But yeah, this is just the anthem, the catchy, excellently produced pop song from this album that I think would be the one that lures people in. I mean, it comes very late on the album, but I think a lot of people will gravitate towards this song, if any song on the album, because it is just so catchy and likable. It's kind of the one track that does feel a little out of place lyrically, maybe just because it feels like it's losing its inhibitions and just kind of being a bit more lustful, and, you know, doesn't quite have the same lyrical ideas of some of the other tracks, but it doesn't make it any less good. It's a really good song. And Mirror is an interesting closing track as well, quite a depressing way to close things out, where it's basically like, presenting itself as, you know, oh, I'm just a mirror for your gaze. I don't really exist for anything else. Again, societally, this could have a lot of connotations to it, but it's really well written. I feel like sometimes artists can touch on these topics and it can come off as really cringe, like really cringe, and you can just be like, nah. But I don't think anything off this album is ever like that. Everything feels tasteful, and I think it is the fact that the music just does have that really refined detail with the luscious instrumentation, the chamber pop feel of a lot of these tracks. Like everything just feels larger than life, and it just lends itself nicely to these kinds of lyrics. And of course the vocals are performed really lovely a lot of the time too. And speaking of the music as well, a lot of the time I'm reminded of something like Florence and the Machine on this album. A band like Bent Knee I'm getting a lot of vibes from too. I don't exactly know if they would be aware of Bent Knee because they're not particularly that big, but that grandiose approach, that vision to make things just sound so huge and expansive and massive, it just feels like it's coming across in this album too. And if you've never listened to Bent Knee, please listen to Bent Knee because they're bloody good. They're a bit heavier and rockier than Last Dinner Party, but that feeling that I get from albums from both bands kind of are hitting similarly for me. But even still, this is bloody great, yeah, like I say, the Black Country New Road influence really shining through a lot on this album, and I think that's going to be a big appeal for a lot of people considering how beloved they've become over the past few years, and it's great to see. I think there's going to be a bit of a backlash towards this album. I think a lot of people are going to be quite eager to criticize it and come for this album. I just have a sense when it starts getting awards or nominated for awards, I just think the discourse is going to get a little bit annoying, but I only speak from how I feel. I am always genuine. For me, this is just as good as people are saying. Like, this is as good as all the hype it's been getting for me. Got to be an 8.5 out of 10 from me. What a debut album. Got to hand it to them here. They absolutely killed it. I'm very excited to see where they go from here too. But for now, what I've got here, I'm very happy with. And yeah, I hope a lot of people will be on board with this just as much as I am. I think it's great. Definitely great to see music taking off quite early this year. Already had a few albums now that are really bloody strong. I think 2024 is going to be very good, and these guys, Last Dinner Party, are going to be a huge contribution to the great music that we get this year. So thank you for watching. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Check out my Patreon as well. Subscribe. Have a good day. Goodbye.